The double espresso slot at the CrowdStrike 24 Hours of Spa is occupied by the GT2 European Series powered by Pirelli. Morning, everybody. It has just gone 9:05 local time. There are one or two bleary-eyed teams that have made their way into the circuit this morning, and amongst them are those for the GT2 European Series. The cars making their way out on track for the second race of the weekend. David Addison and Joe Osborne trackside, cornflakes in hand, and as the cars are making their way onto the track today, Joe, it is a proper dry circuit. Yesterday we had rather mixed conditions when the GT2 field had race one.
Yeah, we've already had the big ball of fire in the sky this morning, which feels rare for Spa. And yeah, the temperature's pretty nice as well. 20.2 air and already 23 track, so almost perfect race car conditions. We've said it before, these GT2s not with tyre ovens, so they do need to work those tyres, and we saw an extra formation lap yesterday, so potentially expect the same this morning.
It's not the biggest grid, admittedly, but yesterday was an interesting race, partly because the winning team ended up with a penalty and they still had to overcome that in order to score victory. A fourth win of the championship season yesterday for Spa-Francorchamps and Stefan Rosina. Philippe Pret took yet another win within the AM category yesterday, finishing in 5th place overall, and that for Philippe Pret, a 4th victory of the season for him as well. The forecast is really good, but it is Spa. But right now, it is warm, it is sunny, it is dry, there's not much wind, almost perfect track conditions for the GT2 contingent. Pit stop race, 181 seconds is that pit stop time. But there's compensation as well. So if you're in the top 3 in a race, you get 10, 7 or 5 seconds. And if you're a solo driver, you get an increase again because you're deemed to have an advantage. So we'll factor those in as well as we get through the race. That is Eau Rouge. And this, Joe, the rest of the lap.
Yeah, just over 7 kilometres, 19 corners split into the 3 sectors, and 3 very different sectors. Sector 1, including Eau Rouge, very fast. Sector 2, tight, twisty, technical. And then Sector 3, a hybrid of those two ones, with Blanchimont Corner being a fearsome corner for any car, but these GT2 cars, especially with over 700 horsepower.
And you saw the start and finish lines the other side of La Source. That's valid for the 24 hours, but for the purposes of GT2, it will be the start and finish in the same place near here, the F1 pits. You can see the teams making their way out onto the grid now as the drivers make this slow installation lap around onto the grid. KTM and Lamborghini represented at the pointy end, plus Maserati. There is the car that won yesterday, Spa-Francorchamps and Stefan Rosina. Stefan Rosina is going to be the start driver today, having done the qualifying time in the car in the second session. Very experienced driver as well is Rosina, having raced successfully a few years back in Porsche Super Cup before going off to build up his business, and with titles initially being won in the Skoda Octavia Cup. He went on to race Porsche's FIA GT1 World Championship machinery as well, and certainly enjoying his racing. The Lamborghini, the car to beat potentially. There, heading to the grid, is one of the very quick KTMs run by the RTR Projects stable. Victor Maras is going to start in that car, and he will share it with Petrolisa, who we've seen driving this year in a Mercedes AMG, such as this car, Neil Montserrat and Alberto Di Martin, which yesterday picked up a puncture at the first corner. Yeah, I went for a brave move round the outside, made it 3 wide, and then unfortunately the cars naturally came to the outside and he made contact with the number 1 Maserati, Philippe Pret. Did a fair amount of damage. They were a few laps down, but still scored championship points, luckily for them. Which is all key in this. That KTM is going to be started by Mato Homola. Shares it with David Kayaya, who is near to the championship this weekend. But Mato Homola, very successful touring car racer in the European and World Championships and in myriad TCR categories around the globe. So Mato Homola behind the wheel, and the rest of the field slotting into place. Pole position then to Stefan Rosina in that Lamborghini. Mato Homola second on the grid, and third you can see the gold Maserati that Mauro Calamia is going to start. sharing with Roberto Pampanini, and they have also had a race win. Indeed, they won the second of the two races, the equivalent race to this, therefore, at Zandvoort. Very different sort of circuit, but a modern-day Formula One track nonetheless. So, the rest of the grid just starting to trickle into place. It's a shame that we don't have a few more this weekend. The lure of Spa, one would have hoped, would have rattled a few more cages. But what we do have, all intense fighting, and, of course, now all relevant for the championship. Let's go to the grid. Ganelle Longy is down there for us, and she's found Mauro Calamia, the driver of number 7 Dynamic Motorsport Maserati, that lines up third on the grid. Ganelle.
Mauro Calamia starting from second row on this second race grid. Yesterday you missed the win for just a few seconds due to the penalty of the car just in front of you. What can you expect from today's race?
I think the race will be quite difficult because the pace from the Lambo is really, really high. But we will try. Like the last race in Zandvoort, we are here for the victory and we will try everything to catch them up.
Thank you. Have a good race.
Mauro Calamia then, very experienced as well, having been a Trofeo Maserati champion, gosh, 11 years ago now. He won his class in the Nürburgring 24 hours as well, so lots of GT and long-distance experience. Back in the championship comes Gianluca Giorgi, sharing with Daniele Casaniga. And it is going to be Casaniga who will start in the LP Racing Audi. We don't see the Audis terribly often. They were one of the original GT2 cars, and it's good to still have them on the grid. Yeah,
it's a great car. Sounds great as well. And it was quick at times yesterday, faded a bit towards the end of the race, but we had quite changeable conditions yesterday. We had a couple of rain showers come in and out during the race. It looks like that won't be the case today. I think that will favour the Audi and probably the KTMs. The KTM seemed to struggle the most in the changeable conditions yesterday.
The lead car for the formation lap, the Maserati there, in those Vitaphone colours, lining up at the front of the grid, ready to lead them around on that rolling start. Let's get back down to the grid because Matteo Homola, second on the grid, is now with Ganelle.
Matteo Homola starting from first row today for the second race. Do you think you can beat the Lamborghini, which is next to your car?
Yeah, that's our aim for sure. You know, we want to win as any other driver. We showed yesterday that we have pace. Yeah, but we are struggling a little bit on the straight line speed. But yeah, we'll try our best. We have good team, good car, so hopefully we'll be on the top spot.
Thanks. Have a good race.
Right, Matteo Homola, one to watch. Very definitely in the KTM. David Kayaya, the Georgian driver, will take over for stint 2. And there, the imposing front of the Mercedes AMG GT2. Nel Montserrat is going to start in that car. Welcome back to racing this year because he has had many years off. He got as far as Formula Renault 3.5 and then deviated to start his own team and has been busy running that. But it was really 2023 that he came back in Iberian supercars, but with customers wanting a co-driver, he's been able to step into the breach. Here then is the car to beat, very definitely. Stefan Rossina starting in that Michenek Motorsport Lamborghini. And Lamborghini as a brand represented here with cars in GT2 and GT3 and Super Trofeo as well. So as you dance around the pole position car, Maserati behind, all the best brands are here. Lamborghini, Maserati, Audi, Mercedes AMG, Mauro Calamia, good to go. And you can see inside how many switches and buttons and controls there are in a modern day GT car. And even, in quotes, a road car is pretty futuristic with that massive rear wing. Engines fire up now.
Yeah, look at that Maserati leading the pack, the leading car. The rear lights looking like the Trident logo as well. It's pretty cool. The MC Extrema, that is, like you said, based on the MC12. Only 62 units are made, track focus car. So nice to see Maserati starting to come back to the party with some wild cars. Yeah, let's hope there's a GT3 car on the plan somewhere for the future. Ferrari unveiled its new 296 Evo yesterday for the future of its GT3 program. So GT racing still a major part of the supercar brand's strategy. The lead car then will lead them away in a moment. And there is Stefan Rossina's car on pole position. That's the Maserati MC Extrema that Joe was talking about. The 15-second board is there just to complete the countdown. And very shortly, away will go that leading car. Down towards La Source it will head. And there you can see a little bit further back on the grid on the inside of that third row. Philippe Pret, that's the green flag to release the cars. Formation lap underway. And Philippe Pret starting
with a 14-second penalty to overcome. Now, the Lamborghini doesn't want to get away, and so the outside of the front row moves, and this could be a drama because Stefan Rossina's car ain't going anywhere. Now, if everybody gets past you, you've got to start at the back of the grid. Calambia can't get past. The Lamborghini fires up now. Well, that was one way of making sure he didn't drop to the back. He had everyone hemmed in behind him. So now Rossina powers away. He should be able, under the regulations, to get himself back up alongside the rest of the front row of the grid. But had everybody driven past him, he'd need to start at the back. But intriguing as to why that car didn't get away. So coming then now down past the endurance pits, you can see Stefan Rossina playing catch-up. But the drivers have to be careful here because as Calambia wants to get back towards the second row and people are weaving left and right to get the warmth into the tyres, the last thing you want to do is get caught up in any contact. So all a bit leery.
Yeah, he was lucky that no one overtook him and sent him to the back of the grid because they were so tightly packed.
Let's have a look then. Stefan Rossina on pole position. Matteo Homola alongside on the front row, ahead of Mauro Calambia and then Daniele Casaniga. You've got Philippe Pret, the AM winner of yesterday, starting 5th on the grid. Neil Montserrat is alongside him. And then Oliver Freimut, the class winner in AM this year, lining up alongside Victor Mrach, who will start in the KTM. And at the back of the grid, Christophe Bourret is going to go first in number 53 Mercedes. Plans yesterday unveiled for the future of the category. Stefan Rattel saying that he wants to persevere with it. And although it's been aimed initially at the gentleman racers, one of the ways of trying to nurture it is to, for next year, introduce a silver cup. So instead of this being perceived as somewhere that the older drivers go and race, as a young gun, you can come into it and you have a choice, perhaps of GT4 or GT2, to learn about GT racing, because these are still big, powerful cars, and to come in and master these takes some doing.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We've already got pros in this category in the Pro-Am element of it, so the Silver class edition seems like a logical step. And yeah, Ginetta as well, announcing they will have a car that will be eligible for it too.
Yeah, the cars are out there. We've had Porsche in the past, we've had more Audis, we've had Brabham, we've seen Mercedes and Porsche in the early days too. So there are different brands available. The KTM, I suspect, has ended up, because it's a light, low-cost car, perhaps almost frightening one or two away, but they are in the right hands very quick. But they are beatable, as the Maserati proved at Zandvoort, as the Lamborghini proved yesterday, and indeed at Paul Ricard and at Zandvoort, because it was 3 wins on the bounce.
Yeah, when I was at McLaren as well, we were developing a GT2 car based on the 720. Right. It was only COVID that killed that project. So I'm sure there's other manufacturers flirting with the idea as well. And Silver will boost the grid, and I think then the demand will come, and then it will be another successful GT category. I've said it before, but GT4 was very similar when it first started off, and now you look at that as a global championship, 44 cars here on the European GT4 grid.
Yeah, it's a slow burn, wasn't it? And we've had so many different drivers and teams dipping in and out. It just need them all to commit at the same time, really. The start procedure of Victor Mrach has been noted, so there might be more to come from that as the lead car, the Maserati, now slows the pace right down, coming towards the chicane.
They're going to do the second formation lap just because of the lack of tyre ovens. So the clock will start now. So the race time will start to click away. But they will do another formation lap, and then they will do the start at the end of this lap.
So notionally, the race is on. As Jay rightly says, the clock now starts to tick. They did this yesterday, admittedly in rather different conditions, but still early in the morning, and on a fairly daunting circuit like this, and the fact that most of the grid are inexperienced gentleman racers, just giving them an extra lap for safety. So it's going to be at the end of this one where they get themselves into that side-by-side formation, ready to go racing, and then we will be in business. So yesterday, with a penalty that they had to overcome, Bronek Formanek, Stefan Rossina, the winners, from Roberto Pampanini and Mauro Calambia in second place, third going the way of David Kayaya and Matteo Homola in the KTM. Philippe Pret won in AM ahead of Oliver Freimut, and the Mercedes of Pascal Gibon and Christophe Bourret taking third in class. So the field right now weaving around, getting the warmth into the rubber as they come up towards Les Camps. And it doesn't really matter whether you're in a GT2, a GT3, a GT4 car. It remains a fabulous lap, the Spa-Francorchamps circuit, and still a real challenge.
Yeah, it's quite hard to pick a favourite corner around here, which is telling of what a great lap it is for the drivers. Overtaking relatively easy compared to some of the circuits we've been to with GT2. Zandvoort was particularly difficult for these cars to overtake, and we saw bits of contact because those overtakes were hard to do clean. But yesterday we saw a lot of good overtaking over the 1 hour race.
And the other nice thing about this, of course, is that double driver format. You don't have to have a co-driver, but if you wish, then you can. You've got the extra time to be served in the pits if you are a soloist, and it does mean that in some cases the differing pace of drivers means that cars are going to rise and fall through the order depending on who is behind the wheel.
Yep, especially in these Pro-Am cars. So the green numbered back cars are Pro-Am, so they will swap to an Am driver halfway through the race. And the red backed coloured cars are our Am cars, of which 2 of them do it solo. Philip Pret leading the championship, doing it very well by himself, and Oliver Freymuth in the Lamborghini by himself, also in that black car just going through shot.
Yeah, we had Henri Hassid as a champion a few years back, and he was always a soloist, and he used to say, you know, it's been a really hard weekend, you know, I'm driving solo and hard work in the car, very hot and so forth, but he always insisted. I think there was one occasion where his son drove with him, but largely he was one of those AMs that wanted the mileage on his own, wanted the track time, and I suppose in a sense what you don't want if you're funding it is for somebody else to do any damage to your car. You want the control over that yourself.
Yep, exactly, and it's a fun weekend. I think sometimes drivers like to get their small violin out and try and get some sympathy, and yeah, I feel so bad for you having to drive that race car around here for an hour by yourself. Like, can I set you a GoFundMe page maybe to buy some water afterwards?
You're all heart, aren't you? Just because you had to get up early. So the cars now make that run on to the chicane, and our second GT2 European Series race of the weekend is going to be very shortly underway then. So for the next hour of racing, or just under an hour of racing now, GT2 cars take centre stage. Race is longer this year as well in an effort to give more mileage to the competitors. They were 50 minutes up to an hour this year. 181 seconds then is a pit stop. The pit lane is the 2 elements combined of the Formula 1 pits and the endurance pits. The leading car then, the Maserati Extrema, will go for the pit lane. Then we will go into the race start procedure with everybody side by side, needing to stay in those formation lines. Maserati into the pits then. Out of the chicane they come, heading up towards the timing line. So it is Stefan Rosina on pole position. Matto Hommler alongside. Rosina lags back, then accelerates. It's not the tidiest of starts, but the lights go to green and everybody accelerates away up towards La Source then for the first time. Calamia in the Maserati looking for a gap on the inside, but fails. Then he gets stuck behind Rosina going into La Source. Philippe Pret's Maserati went up the inside line, and way wide goes Hommler into the gravel. He's able to skip back onto the road in 3rd place, but he's lost quite a chunk of time already. Small error there.
Yeah, side by side as well between the Audi and Philippe Pret. Pret decides to lift out of it. Smart move, because that wasn't for a class position. He's worried about Freymuth 2 cars back. Almost looked like Calamia in the gold Maserati gave the KTM of Hommler a slight hip and shoulder. I'm not sure if there was contact or the body language meant Hommler had to take some steering lock out and drive into the gravel and lose momentum.
As Calamia comes up to have a go at Rosina for the race lead, couldn't do it. There you've got Daniele Casaniga as well going up to Le Con with Neil Montserrat's Mercedes AMG GT2 right up behind, and then Philippe Pret, who's had a, by his standards, modest opening lap. Hommler though, he's trying to regroup, and he is regrouping. He's getting a little bit nearer, is he not, to the traffic ahead for the race lead. So right now it is this fight going on between Rosina and Calamia, but I think Hommler is going to, certainly through the twiddly bits, be able to use the nimbleness of that KTM to get back into the fight.
Yeah, we saw this yesterday. Sector 2 was the KTM sector that it preferred, and that's where we are currently. In Sector 1 is where it did prefer. Philippe Pret, I agree with you. I think he's just been calculated and let those Pro-Am cars go, and he's now filtered into the lead of the Am class. You can see those colourings there, the green boxes versus red, and that is what he is focused on right now, and his best chance is just let those pros go in the Pro-Am, and then he can deal with their Ams later on in this race.
Neil Montserrat having a fairly modest start as well. He's running in 5th place. He's gained a spot, admittedly, off the grid over Philippe Pret, but Montserrat that we have seen in the leading battles in earlier races this year, not up with them, and actually not staying on the back for the moment of Casaniga. Philippe Pret, then your Am AM class leader. He's been an AM winner 4 times this season, and he has to push because there you can see behind him is Oliver Frymut, and Pret has to spend an extra 4 seconds in the pit lane over Frymut because of the win yesterday, coupled with the fact that he's a solo driver.
Yep, he'll have to work away. And talking about the pit stops, we saw Rosina and Formanek cop a penalty, didn't we, yesterday for that too short a pit stop. So that's always something that teams and drivers have to be aware of. And it's particularly hard here at Spa because the pit lane is so long. So for that Lamborghini that's currently in the lead, they've probably got 750 metres of pit lane after they leave to manage that time, and they can't cross the exit line of the pit lane too soon.
So the race leading cars come out on the source, drop down the hill. There in number 115 is Neil Montserrat, the ex-single-seater racer. He runs the NM Racing team. All of a sudden it looks a little bit grey and imposing over La Source there. So much for it being a bright and sunny morning. Leaders come out then of Jacques Radion, and there you can see Casaniga. He's 4th. Montserrat behind him in 5th place in that almost stealth-like Mercedes, and a wiper on the Audi there. Interestingly, that maybe Casaniga just knocked the stalk coming through Radion, but the wiper briefly on, and he's got Montserrat bearing down on him. That is Pret leading AM, and Rosina leading the race. Maro Calamia in 2nd place going after him, but Calamia is not quite, I don't think, being able to really get close enough to make a move. He's putting the pressure on, he's always there, but Rosina looked rock solid.
Yeah, he has gained 3/10 on this first sector, though. That gold Maserati has closed the gap to the Lamborghini in front slightly. Is that a trend or is that a sector thing? We're getting the first set of track limit warnings coming in as well. T4, top of Eau Rouge, T17, Blanchemont are always our hotspots. You can get it here as well at T10 if you run too wide in the mid-part. Double left here at Pouan. You can see actually Calamia was pretty wide there. Interesting to see if they're going to start to get pinged there. As soon as a wheel leaves the track, crosses the white line, that's where you get your track limit warning.
So now coming up through the exit of the pith path down towards campus, past the college, and there is Matto Homola then to the KTM, which is just starting now to drop off the back. It's not a KTM circuit, this is a power circuit, this is a big engine circuit.
Yeah, but the KTM looks after its tyres, so towards the end of the race, that lightweight, less power factor will swing back in its favour. So if Homola can just keep the car somewhere near, he will still be favouring his chances, especially in the pit stops. There's a chance there to maybe do an under or an overcut. Not all cars need to stop on the same lap, so strategy could come into play too.
Let's have a look as Montserrat drops into the chicane here. That Mercedes AMG now being caught by the Maserati of Pret, isn't it?
Yeah, I wonder if Pret wishes he hadn't let Montserrat go so easily on the opening lap, because it looks like it's now going to start to hold him up.
But the interesting thing is Montserrat did an absolute best in the first sector on that lap, and even so has fallen away from Casaniga, and he's being caught a little bit by Pret. It's 0.8 of a second as they go now into La Source. So the Mercedes AMG, normally a competitive car, just not quite looking like it's got the absolute pace today. There is Philippe Pret, who is getting away from Frymut. He's already 4 seconds up the road in terms of the class lead. This is what he needs. He needs to overcome 4 seconds, and he's already 4.1 ahead, and that gap's just going to grow as the stint wears on, one would feel.
Yeah, and I think that going back to the Mercedes Montserrat point, I've driven that GT2 Mercedes, and it is a rocket ship in a straight line. But then to slow it down, they've lifted the ride height up, they've added some weight to it, and that's why it's struggling in that middle sector. So it's the complete opposite to the KTM, how it delivers its lap time. And I think that's why we're not seeing that Mercedes maybe as strong as we have previously this year.
So there, Victor Murat at the back of the field in number 789. Petrolisa will take over from him as Stefan Rosina in the Lamborghini tries to push. Now, he's got a 10-second compensation stop. Of course, the KTM has no time to serve in the pits. So into the second stint, David Kaya is going to be back at the races, isn't he? If Homola can stay within 10 seconds of that car in the lead, the Lamborghini, then they've got a chance going into the second part of the race. Equally, Rosina is a little bit faster than Formanek, who will take over the Lamborghini.
Yep, so all of these factors we need to obviously look at, and we've seen a very aggressive Pampanini as well that will take over the 7 Maserati in second place as well. So we've got some action on our hands, I think, in the second part of this race. Like we see in all GT categories, the pros so closely matched. They kind of just get in their groove of their metronomic lap times, and that's why we're seeing less than half a second between their best laps so far, and that's why the gaps are keeping pretty stagnant right now.
So there, coming into Blanchimont, is Mauro Calamia, the gold Dynamic Motorsport Ram Maserati. You see Stefan Rossina running wide at Blanchimont, not too wide though, as he comes up towards the chicane now. There behind him, in third spot, is Mato Homola. So the gap at the moment, first to third, is 2.2 seconds, or it was at the start of this lap. It may have grown slightly, but again, the key to this is that Homola is staying within the 10 seconds that he will buy back on the pit stops. So Lamborghini leading, Maserati leading, KTM leading, Audi. First to third has gone up, 2.9, so Homola can't afford to waste any time whatsoever. And how is he doing in relation to Casaniga behind him? He's just quicker, only by a couple of tenths. So that gap, third to fourth, is growing in turn.
Yeah, Casaniga on 3 track limits in that Audi already. So within 12 minutes, of which 3 were an extra formation lap, he's got to be careful there. Those track limit warnings reset at the pit stops. So he's got to survive until then. But another 2, he's going to get a penalty.
Is indeed, as the cars then here come once again up towards Les Combes. To the eyes, Calamia a little bit faster. In sector 1, he has done a personal best and brought the gap down to Rossina. So Calamia now starting to close. And number 11, Stefan Rossina, is under investigation for not following the race director's instruction. Now, is that for the way that he rejoined? Was it for the way that he ensnared everybody behind him? It's all to do with stalling on the grid, one fears. Right now, Rossina just has to push and try and build up the lead. It's out of his hands, but the stewards are having a look at what happened on the grid.
Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate. He didn't mean to not pull away, obviously, so I feel that was okay. The only other thing was, as he exited the last corner before the start, he really slowed down, didn't he? Which made the KTM back up. But again, looked okay to me. I didn't spot anything that seemed untoward from that 11 car, but let's see what race control say.
So through the pith path, there goes Mauro Calamia. 1.7 seconds back coming on to this lap. You can see Homola in third is dropping away. His main task right now is just to stay, if you like, in the race. In other words, stay within the 10 seconds of Stefan Rossina. He may get a message to say push, there might be a penalty, it's being looked at, or they might just leave him to it. So here he comes up through the Cours Paul Frere. Here's the replay at the start. Look, he lags back, so one side of the grid has moved ahead. Then Rossina catches and accelerates and starts to pull away. But maybe it was the lagging back there that didn't go down well in race control.
The only thing I would say is, Rossina, as soon as the safety car goes in, you're the pace, you can dictate it, and that's why you're on pole. I didn't see anything too untoward, but like we say all the time, I haven't got any morals, so I don't mind doing that.
Well, yesterday we had a debate about a penalty, and having nailed your colours to a mast, within a lap race control did exactly the opposite, and a penalty came to the other driver. So, yeah, your strike rate with these things still up for debate. We'll see what comes of it. Of course, Rossina could always say, yeah, it wasn't me going slowly, it was the KTM alongside that was going too quickly. Anyway, right now, it's under investigation, and all Rossina can do is push. He's a second and a half ahead. That means Calamia is still bringing down the gap. We've had another absolute best in Sector 1 from the Mercedes of Neil Montserrat, and it translated into a personal best lap time. Last lap through, that car fifth.
As you see the slow-mo Philip Pret into the bus stop chicane, up on 2 wheels as they use that apex curve to effectively rotate the car and help turn it. But a huge amount of energy there. Philip Pret doing the exact job being asked of him right now, and his gap has now grown to nearly 8 seconds behind Oliver Framuth.
Here is then the race leader, Stefan Rossina. 45 minutes of the race still to go, so we're looking at another 10 or so before we need to worry about pit stops. And of course, gaps can grow. People can make mistakes equally in that amount of time. Rossina, though, looking good as he comes out of the speaker's corner, Jackie Eak's corner, and then down into Pouhon then. So he sets the car up, the nose dips, aims for the first apex. That's Calamia in second place, who to the eye has dropped back a little bit. Yeah, he lost time in sector 1 on this lap, did Calamia, and that's Mato Homola in third place, thinking, oh, if only we had more tight and twisty corners around here. But the car always competitive, and Homola never giving up, so he'll be there or thereabouts come the end of the race. And of course, it was a KTM that won the championship last year when Reinhard Koffler and Martin Koch took the title. So banking points, absolutely essential.
Yep, and we've seen a few problems with that car this weekend. They've had to do a few on and offs, master reset, but thankfully now, the first quarter of this race, it's been running absolutely A-OK. We're seeing a 5-second time penalty for car 11. So race control not happy with the start, so that makes their pit stop even longer.
Yeah, it's going to nudge it up now to 15 seconds, 10 for winning yesterday, plus another 5. So it's been a feature of the season, hasn't it, that they pick up penalties for misdemeanors, but it does make the racing interesting.
Yeah, can't wait to hear an interview with Rosina, and he gets out the car. He's quite forthright with his views and comments, so I look forward to listening to that one.
So for the start procedure, it is an extra 5 seconds for the Lamborghini. As you look at the 4th placed Audi of Daniele Casaniga, he's 3.4 seconds back from Matteo Homola, and his last lap was slower. Neil Montserrat behind, about 0.6 quicker. So the gap
penalty
is coming down.
information, car 11 has a 5-second time penalty added to their pit stop time for weaving after turn 16 on the formation lap.
Okay, so that was the race director that you were listening to, confirming that the 5-second penalty is to be applied, but it wasn't for lagging back, it was for weaving after turn 16, by which stage the race director wants everybody to be in that Noah's Ark formation, not weaving around.
Yeah, so fair enough. On the penalty in the director's notes, T15 is where you have to stop and you have to form up. And there's an advantage to weaving in these cars because of the lack of tyre evidence. So he would have gained an advantage by weaving past the point. So new Santa Maria race director there, hard but fair.
Absolutely right. So it'll be a grumpy Rosina. Stand by. Good luck, Ganel, when he gets out of the car. But slam dunk, really. He did it, and it was there on the pictures. Here he comes down through Pouhon. We're currently on lap number 9. Now let's have a look. Coming out of Blanchimont, look at the Lamborghini. And as they come up towards the chicane, there's a weave, and eventually he slots back in. And coming up towards the chicane, goes and slows, and has another little weave. Not much argument with that.
Maybe there's a wasp in the car.
That'll be it, yes. Well, Stefan Rosina bang to rights. So now the pressure is on him to keep pushing and build up that advantage. And Calamia, well, it was 1.7 seconds. I think Rosina has now pulled the pin because he looks further away as though the message has now got through. We're in for a longer pit stop. You've got to push like mad. The gap to the eye is extending as there is Homola 3rd. Casaniga looking quick coming into view 4th ahead of Montserrat 5th in that Mercedes AMG. Yeah, the gap is up. 1.7 last time and 2.3 already on this 9th lap of the race. So pushing really hard, sorry, 7th lap of the race, pushing really hard is Stefan Rosina. They're going through is Philippe Pret coming out of Blanchimont. He's got the AM class well under control, but yeah, Rosina versus the clock right now.
Yeah, and Montserrat actually is on the move. Last lap was his fastest too, so that gap now down to 1.1 seconds to Casaniga. So that's going to be a battle that rages on. Another battle here, Bure versus Thramuth. Thramuth in the black Lamborghini running in deep there, misses the apex. That's going to give that red Mercedes a chance to open up the corner and get a better drive out this corner. This gap starting to come down. Thramuth does the whole race by himself, so is he having to pace himself? Is he thinking, I've only done a third of this race, I just need to keep my energy levels, keep breathing, keep relaxed. Whereas Bure could potentially be out of the car quite shortly in the next 10 minutes or so, and then he can just hand over to Gibbon, who will take the fight to the same guy in the same car.
Yeah, the AMs do enjoy their track time, don't they? Freimuth, Pret, regular soloists, Christophe Bure and Pascal Gibbon, very, very experienced racers in things like GT2 European Series, French GT, Preventic events, race at Le Mans together. They've raced in the Intercontinental Le Mans Cup, and that, gaining his place very easily, is Christophe Bure just breezing by on the way up towards Les Combes. Oliver Freimuth almost thinking, can't fight him, just keep out of trouble and bank some points here. Fastest lap of the race last time around was done by Stefan Rosina. The gap had gone up massively from 1.7 to 2.9 seconds. So I think Rosina has now got the message. You've got to push.
Yeah, he may be looking after the tyres before, and now he's decided, I've just got to send it. Neil Montserrat as well doing another purple Sector 1, and you can see this red Mercedes being strong in Sector 1, so really iterating how much straight line performance they have.
Freimuth dropping back a little bit in his Lamborghini as another absolute best first sector comes from Neil Montserrat. That's Victor Marach at the back of the pack. He's fallen quite a long way away from Christophe Bure, so the work is going to have to be done by Petrolicia in the second stint. Victor Marach, who is new to the championship this year, he's a regular KTM racer. He did have a one-off race or one-off outing last year, drove at Monza, but largely he's been in the KTM Crossbow series that runs in Eastern European countries. Super slow-mo of 789 KTM coming out of the chicane. And as he accelerates out of the corner, good shot of the back of the car. Oh, a big cough of flame and smoke. That's not very encouraging.
Yeah, the KTM tends to do it, doesn't it? The 5-cylinder, 2.5-litre turbo Audi engine just seems to overfuel on upshifts, and that's the black soot is unburnt fuel, and then the fire is the burnt fuel.
Now there, Stefan Rosina making his way down through the Eau Rouge section of the circuit. Teams, co-drivers looking on. Alberto Di Martin is getting ready. Petrolicia there gets ready to take over. Something rather different, switching from Mercedes AMG to KTM power for the weekend. And a different co-driver as well. Here, up towards Les Combes, comes the race leader. Is that gap second to third coming down a little bit? Matteo Homola's last lap was quicker than Mauro Calamia. And look at this all of a sudden for fourth. Neil Montserrat right on the back of Daniele Casaniga. Audi versus Mercedes AMG, and Montserrat has absolutely hacked away. He was 9/10 back at the start of the lap. He's about 9 inches back now.
Yeah, and Casaniga's got another track limit, so he's on his last life now. He's done 4. Fifth one will get a penalty. Montserrat here in sector 2. This isn't where the Mercedes has been strong, but next lap potentially let's look for an overtake down the Kemmel Straight. At the moment, Montserrat just needs to stay as close as he can to that Audi through the rest part of this lap.
The car's now plunging downhill once again. So Casaniga, Montserrat 4th and 5th. And all of a sudden, having been caught by Montserrat, Casaniga kind of wakes up, doesn't he? Ups his game, thinking, oh, I need to push here. And he is just starting to edge away by 3-4 lengths. But again, they're both wide coming out of Pouhon. And that was marginal from both.
Yeah, and you can see on the graphic there, the time gained over a second over the last 3 laps. So Montserrat would have seen that gap getting smaller. He'll be super motivated to get this move done before the pit stops.
Montserrat then down towards Campus, through that right-hander and short straight up towards the Cours Paul Frere, past the medical centre on the left-hand side, the speed building at this part of the racetrack. As again, Montserrat, you can see how much he's charging because he's way wide up the curbs. Now we're only a couple of minutes or so away from the pit window. Rosina, the leader, is quicker than Formanek. He will stay out probably until pretty much the end of the window. Montserrat quicker than Di Martin in the Mercedes as well. Casaniga sharing with Gianluca Giorgi. Interesting to see when they elect to pit. They're the leading 3 out of the chicane, into which now the gap comes right down as Montserrat hauls himself up onto the tail of the Audi in 4th place.
I expect all the Pro-Am cars to go as long as they can in that 10-minute window and try and maximise their pro driver time. Montserrat very close as they cross the line, so I think this could be job done as they break into Les Combes. That Mercedes power gets a bit of a wiggle on, doesn't he, out of La Source. That will hurt his traction, but he's staying close. Now you've got to stay as close as you can through Eau Rouge in the dirty air. So you're going to try and get down the inside already. Job done, great move.
Nicely done, up the curb, gives Casaniga room to come back at him, but Casaniga backed out of it. He found the curb as well, which I think rather spooked him. So Neil Montserrat with a brave pass goes through, and he's worked hard for that because he's been chasing that Audi lap after lap after lap. And this is the sector in which the Mercedes is so strong, and he's been able to use that to get the pass done and also just pull away by a couple of lengths up to the braking zone.
Yeah, he's got a nice comfortable margin already, and what can he do about the KTM in front? 6.5 seconds difference at the moment. Lap times were pretty similar last time by, so maybe the KTM is just a bit too far away for anything Neil Montserrat can do.
Out of Bruxelles, downhill. Montserrat then looking to see what can be done in the next part of his stint. And of course, Alberto Di Martin will take over that car into the second stint, and then he's on the charge up against different drivers ahead of him. They've had a couple of third places already this year, as their 4 times a winner is the Lamborghini. It is still Stefan Rosina at the wheel. Pit window is about half a minute away, less than that now. Bronek Formanek will take over for the second stint. The Michenek Motorsport team having come from Lamborghini Super Trofeo into GT2 this year, having tweaked the car for GT2 regulations, and they've had a really good run, and it's great to see the car. It's not only a good looking car, it's a good sounding car too. Oliver Frymont also switching from the Super Trofeo ranks to GT2. Pit window open, as you can see on the graphic, and now into the approach to the chicane comes Stefan Rosina. You see the way the nose crashes down under braking, dipped markedly, goes right, goes left, up towards the line. Calamia second, and he is also going to stay out. Matteo Homola will stay out, surely he does. And there you can see in the background, Montserrat getting away 4th ahead of Casaniga now.
Yeah, Homola looking slightly closer this lap as well, so the KTM looking after its tyres like we suspected. Not much actually difference in the last lap, half a tenth between it, but Homola's done a good job at keeping that gap under 2 seconds to the Maserati in front.
Here they come into La Source, the Mercedes Audi fight for 4th place. So Montserrat was ahead by actually 1.4 seconds when they came across the line. As yet, nobody has bailed for the pit lane. So in the majority of cases, if not all cases, you've got the quicker driver in first, and that means that they are going to go long, maximise their usage. The one that might pit early, Victor Marash, to put Petrolicia into the car, but that's quite a long way back. And indeed, also coming in, you can see is Christophe Bure there in the red Mercedes to give way to Pascal Gibon.
Yeah, with the pit stop time being just over 3 minutes, they're almost going to do an identical amount of drive time here in that Mercedes by the time it sets off and gets going. We saw some cars doing fuel yesterday, one of the dump churns can hold up to 25 litres of fuel, so we'll see the car stop, and if the second driver of Gibon doesn't run straight round, they're most probably going to do fuel.
There is, as predicted, Victor Marash in to give way to Petrolicia, which is probably a shrewd move. I think Petra is the quicker of the two. So there, look, the RTR Projects team receive the car. The up and forward bodywork. Mechanics undo the netting, help Victor Marash with the belts, and he will be hoiked out of the car. It's not easy to get out of one of those, so somebody to drag you out is a good idea. It speeds the whole process up. Even though these pit stops are done to a time, it's just that bit easier to get the driver out in double quick time. And then they need him out because they want to put fuel in, and you can't have a driver in the car while refueling takes place.
Yeah, and the door or roof or whatever you want to call that mechanism, KTM has to be closed as well. So fuel is done, and they'll now reopen that canopy and get the next driver in.
And there is Petrolicia with his funky overalls, eager to jump on board. So this is why you can see the reason behind the pit stops being long, so there's not too much panic and flap. There, getting ready is Roberto Pampanini in the second placed car. He will take over from Mara Calamia. So helmet on, harness on, gloves on. One more lap at least for Calamia as he comes now over the timing line. He's certainly dropping back, though, from Rossina. There had been a pitch where he brought the gap down, but it's gone back up again to 5 seconds. So Rossina, fastest man in the race, has really pushed.
Yeah, we'll see Pampanini get ready. Hope he remembers to do his crash helmet up. The amount of stints I've done when I come to undo my helmet and it's already been undone is quite a telling mark on my IQ. But when you're getting ready as a driver, you're hyper-focused on everything but some of the obvious things sometimes.
Philippe Pret in to hand over to Philippe Pret. So he knows what the car and the circuit feels like. His pit stop, therefore, is slightly longer because he's a soloist. And with the success of yesterday, he's up to 14 extra seconds here in the pit lane. So he will get out and then get back in. And again, there's no real panic to all of this, given that you've got to be line to line 3 minutes. Thumbs up, Philippe Pret's a happy man. And
they're going to do fuel. Stefano Ortelli, as ever there. Bit of advice. See if we could listen in, not that I understand French, and Oliver Frameth as well, our other solo driver.
Yeah, Monaco residents and friends and neighbours. Stefan Ortelli, an outright winner of the 24 Hours of Spa in the old NGT class days, the second class. He was the winner, what, 03 in the Freisinger Porsche. Right, back in gets Philippe Pret. So he's got out, stretched his legs, which is sometimes quite useful when you've been crammed into the car for a stint. Yeah, Ortelli as well, 2012 winner in the GT3 Audi, 2009 as well, GT2 Porsche. So, yeah, Mr. GT, he's had a great career and great to see him now moving into the coaching role so successfully. And he's looking after Louis Pret, who we'll see in the 24 Hours as well. There, making his way out on track in the Mercedes is Pascal Gibon. Oliver Freimuth serving his pit stop. And easing himself back in rather gingerly. Yeah, I don't know if he's nursing a bit of a bad back. Race car seats always seem to not offer the best amount of lumbar support, so you feel like you have to stretch yourself in and out sometimes, and that's how it was looking for Oliver Frameth on this early Saturday morning. So down to the chicane comes Stefan Rossina, and let's see how many more laps he has got time for. He is lapping at the minute in the 2:21s. Well, he's certainly got time for one more. In second place, Mara Calamia is staying out as well. And then in third spot, the KTM of Mato Homola. Yeah, our last place Pro-Am car at the moment, the Casaniga Audi, has just got a 5-second track limit penalty. So we thought it was close, but yeah, 5 seconds will be added. Ready to go is Philippe Pret. Lights up the tyres, 11's on the road as he blasts away. And Stefan Rossina, in the meanwhile, is ticking off the laps, ticking down the time to his mandatory pit stop. Next stop for the GT2 European Series will be the third weekend of July, when the teams go to Misano, they head to Valencia, and it all concludes at Barcelona in October. This is Casaniga, so he comes into the pit lane, but 5 seconds now need to be added on, given that he has had the track limit penalty applied.
As we see Calamier and Homina almost identical with the gap, hasn't it? It sometimes ebbs and flows, a 10th here, 10th there. But Homina has had a good sector 1, as has Moserrat. Another purple sector 1 for that Mercedes behind these 2 cars. So, yeah, the pace is staying up as the fuel load burns off, even though the tyres starting to lose some of their peak performance. The fuel coming off is a bigger factor for some of these cars.
It is indeed. Right, down towards Porn they go. Meanwhile, we have the driver change for the Audi. That means that Gianluca Giorgi can now take over, and others are prepared to go as well. Now look at this gap coming right down. As Neil Montserrat in the Mercedes AMG does another absolute best sector 1, Matto Homila is chipping away against Mauro Calamier. 1.4 seconds it was at the start of the lap. And on the lights is Homila. He's not really close enough for that to be a problem as far as Calamier is concerned, but it shows intent from Homila. That Maserati, it's a strange pace, isn't it? It dropped away early on, caught up again, then the gap really did open up against the race leader I'm talking now, and all of a sudden at the end of the stint, Calamier very nearly under threat from the KTM. He may well bail here, then he doesn't have to keep defending. Yeah,
it'd be interesting to keep an eye on the pit stop for that Maserati. Do they bleed the tyre pressures? Is it the tyre pressures going over pressure, which is too much? As Racina pits, they almost had to there, didn't they, with 2 minutes 40 left, 2 minutes 20 a lap time. Is pretty close to whether to push it, and everyone is now boxing.
Indeed. So don't forget, the lead car has to serve 10 seconds by winning yesterday, and a further 5 for the weaving before the start of the race. The Maserati only has to serve 7, and the KTM doesn't have to serve any. So that should come out as the race leader. There, Gianluca Giorgi gets ready to go. You can see how many GT2 races that's done with all the stickers on the car, as there in ahead comes Neil Montserrat. Right, so we wait for the Audi to blast away. We wait for the Maserati driver change to happen. And here in 89, Matto Homila giving way to David Kayaya. There, out of the car is Homila. And again, fuel goes into the KTM, so it has to be vacant. The bodywork has to be closed. Fuel churn puts just enough in to get them to the end of the race. There's the pit stop. Look, you can see in the meantime for Calamier handing over to Pampanini.
Yeah, I could see a mechanic as well doing tyre pressures on that Maserati to the left of shot. You can see he's knelt down. It looked like he was maybe just checking because he wasn't attached for very long, so tyre pressures may be okay on that car.
So there, with that long drive through the pit lane, is number 88, which is now Gianluca Giorgi. A welcome returnee to the championship. Fuel going in for the NM Mercedes as well. Alberto Di Martin will now scurry around the car, take that over, and he'll be in it for the second stint. Class winner in the V2V Endurance Championship, regular in the French GT Championship, as well as the
Car 88
Winter Series.
is under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. Car 88 under investigation for speeding in the pit lane.
So says race director, and that 88 is here, the Audi, that's already been given 1 penalty for track limits, and then another for, or possibly another coming for speeding in the pit lane. And normally when you're investigated for speeding in the pit lane, you're pretty much done.
Penalty information, car 88 has a 10-second time penalty added at the end of racing time for speeding in the pit lane.
Has that car got a rear right puncher? Look at all the debris in the wheel arch.
Yeah.
It's like it's delaminated. It's going very slowly as well. It's not a flat tyre, but has he delaminated the tyre? We saw a big burnout, didn't we, leaving the pits? But something is not right on the rear right of that Philippe Pret Maserati.
Absolutely. You can see something ensnared around the bodywork, and he is going slowly, so he certainly feels something is wrong. Philippe Pret limping on. Let's have a look. Coming up towards Les Combes, there's a bit of smoke. There goes bodywork. There goes rubber. That's a major scare, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like delamination. It's like the inside edge is given up and all the cording, all the structure has gone, but it's still inflated. So it's quite a strange one. It's lost the carcass essentially of that tyre. Something we don't see often.
Yeah, well, Philippe Pret's going to have to come back in. So 88 gets that 10-second penalty, as you heard from the race director. Here is the lead battle, effectively, because now you've got David Kaya ahead of Roberto Pampanini, ahead of Bronek Formanek, ahead of Alberto Di Martin, and they come down the pit lane at the regulation speed, and the gaps have all come down accordingly. So it is game on now between Kaya in the KTM and Pampanini in the Maserati. Behind, look, Formanek accelerates as he gets to the pit out line, so does Alberto Di Martin. It's all going to be quite interesting as well in AM, because now Philippe Pret's on a slow lap, crawling back to the pit lane. That happened very early on in the lap, but in Pro-Am, here they come, the top four now in a very different order with very different gaps.
Yeah, this is a race. Look at all the debris from Philippe Pret. They're trying to pick their way through. Luckily, it was only that one sort of relatively large piece of bodywork that seemed to leave the circuit. The rest of that rubber on the track, as Philippe Pret is going to lose a lot of time.
He's just lost the lead of the class, hasn't he? Because up and past him has gone Pascal Gibon, and he's lost second because the KTM of Petrolica has gone through as well. And all of a sudden, that KTM has got a chance of winning the class out of nowhere earlier on. Petrolica is now right back at the races as the cars come through the chicane. And another puff of smoke out of the back of the KTM. Here they come, Oliver Freimuth next in the queue. Philippe Pret comes in, and hopefully that car's going to be able to rejoin. Number 7 Maserati, slightly short on its pit stop, by the way, but they've played the joker. You get 1 second of tolerance to use in either of the two races, not in each, but in one over the weekend. So, class lead battle is on. Gibon versus Licha. Down they come, and this is Philippe Pret. And let's have a look at that tyre if we can when it comes off the car. First of all, it'll go up on the jacks. The Pirelli technicians will want to look at it as well. Whereas at the minute, Petrolica is looking at the back of the leading Mercedes. They've got the wheel off. They want to make sure the bodywork is away from a new tyre that goes on. Trying to wrench that bit of bodywork away, but even though it's been bent back, it doesn't want to come off.
Yeah, they're almost fine to leave it. That was just the rubber hanging around one of the nuts, and they're kind of boxed in a bit there, aren't they?
But at least it means he can't blast away this time and risk any damage to the tyre. So he's kind of been done a favour there by Gianluca Giorgi. Now, we didn't see him come back in, but 88 Audi straight back in. It got the time penalty, remember, for speeding in the pit lane, and then has come back in.
Yeah, don't really understand that one, why they're doing it. Is it a problem with the car?
Looks like it, doesn't it? Engine cover off. It's another out of the LP Racing stable like Philippe Pret, but it's not tyre related for that. It's, as you can see, something in the engine bay, bodywork off. So Gianluca Giorgi sadly doesn't get much racing in, and the 10-second penalty is almost academic now because it's going to be a very distant last. Petrolica on his toes for the class lead. But right now, fending him off is Pascal Gibon as they come into the pit-path, right-left sequence of corners. Petrolica looks as though he's the quicker, but Gibon drives a wide car and is defending nicely.
Yeah, and he's not getting spooked thus far from the aggressive nature of Petrolica behind him, and that's what he needs to do. He just needs to keep his eyes forward. Just glance in the mirror on the way into the corners to make sure you're not going to turn across the car, overtaking you. And you can see the KTM tries to get the run, but then the power of the Mercedes just lets it escape up the road.
Nose to tail they come, Oliver Freimuth in the background. Philippe Pret has rejoined, as we saw, so he has left the pit lane. And right now, the number 1 Maserati is heading up through Les Combes. Petrolica attacks on the outside, no gap. Down on the inside, no real gap, darting left and right. But all the while, Pascal Gibon is just trying to stand his ground, not be, as Joe was suggesting, sort of scared into making a mistake. And it's Licha that runs the wider of the two coming out of the chicane. We've still got 21 minutes of the race to go, but as they come over the line, in 3rd place in the class is Oliver Freimuth, but he is fractionally nearer this time because he's benefiting ever so slightly from that battle going on ahead of him. Delaying the two drivers, that gives him that lifeline to close back up.
Sorry, 1.2 seconds quicker for this Lamborghini on the last lap, so 2.4 seconds behind. And I think the battling, like you said, is really starting to hurt both of these cars. And Petrolica will want to get the move done. Where's his best opportunity? It looked like he got a good run through Blanchemont into the last corner, so he'll potentially going to set up the same move this time by.
The RTR Projects team would like a blue flag to be shown to Pascal Gibon, but this is a genuine battle for position. It's not Lappery. Petrolica having to work hard for the place. It's the class lead as well, so Gibon is totally within his rights to defend, and he's doing it fairly, but Freimuth is catching up in 3rd place. So after a dominant stint won by Philippe Pret, all of a sudden, Am has come alive.
It's completely changed, isn't it? It's the reverse order to what we saw potentially. Philippe Pret was leading now last, and if this KTM can get in the lead, that was last to first. So a real race of two halves.
Pirelli having taken over the KTM with a pit stop time that was a fair bit quicker than Freimut, but of course Oliver Freimut having to serve those extra 10 seconds for his result yesterday. So it was well drilled by RTR. And of course, with the car having been running a low fuel load early on, they've put just enough in to get it to the finish, not necessarily a full tank. It might be that bit lighter again than the Mercedes. So Pirelli having a good strategic run here, but what he hasn't been able to do is find a way past the Mercedes that's got something just trailing off that right rear corner, hasn't it?
Yeah, it looks similar to the Philip Pret kind of cord that was hanging out. You can just see it dangling around. I hope that isn't the same thing and it's just some debris that he's probably picked up. It's probably Philip Pret's own tyre now looking like it, and I assume that's why they look similar.
So with all that rubber on the road, as we'd seen heading up to Les Combes through Raidillon, the cars run over it, get stuck to their own hot tyres, and eventually it might well drop off, but you can see that little bit of rubber just flapping on the right rear corner when you look at the rear of the car. Pirelli again lines up to have a go, but really good defence again from Gibbon. Lisa darts to the outside line, but Pascal Gibbon chooses the ideal line for the corner. Oliver Freimut is almost there with them as well as they now power their way up towards the line. That little cough of smoke out of the back of the KTM. Over the line goes Gibbon, goes Lisha, goes Freimut. They go thundering past the pits and up now towards the hairpin at La Source.
Yeah, and that's where we thought it would happen into the last corner. But I think Pirelli, with the defence of Gibbon in front of the Mercedes, might have to send it round the outside there. We've seen the move work so far this weekend in the GT4 category, but it's a hard and risky move to go round the outside into the bus stop chicane.
As indeed, as the cars then now climb up through Raidillon. Now, while all this is going on, David Kajaya is still leading outright by 3.3 seconds, getting away from Pampanini. Bronek Formanek is still third, and he's 3 seconds up the road from Alberto Di Martin. So actually, it's calmed down a little bit in Pro-Am. It's Am, very definitely, where all the drama is, coming up towards Les Combes. However, now, for second place, the gap has come down from 1.9 at the start of the lap to Formanek being within striking distance of Pampanini. So a GT2 winner last year in Barcelona was Pampanini with Calamia. He was the winner at Zandvoort, but right now he's having to work hard to hang on to second place. Alberto Di Martin fourth, dropping away. Formanek trying to get himself one spot up the order here.
Pampanini looking a bit ragged as well, going in deep, and then the car a snatch of oversteer out the last corner. So Formanek will be licking his lips here. Looks to the inside into turn one. Super tight. I thought there could be contact as Pampanini closed the door relatively late.
Out of La Source, then Maserati fending off Lamborghini. Downhill they drop, and all of this playing into the hands of David Kajaya, isn't it? Because he's now building a 4.8 second advantage. He has still got just under 17 minutes of the race to go as the leading cars swoop once more through Eau Rouge. They climb the hill through Raidillon, up the Camel Straight, and this is where Formanek might just be able to benefit from a tow, but I fear he's slightly too far back.
Yeah, I think you're right. At the moment, the Maserati pretty strong all around the lap. Are we potentially going to see a double KTM win here? That didn't look likely at the start of this race, did it? But at the moment, they're looking comfortable in this Pro-Am class that we're watching the battle for second place. Pirelli definitely the fastest AM car in the second half of this race too here at Spa.
And quirkily, we haven't had a KTM win in either class all season. We talk about the fact that they're good and quick and low cost relative to other brands, but the KTMs have not, although they've been banking points, not come out as a class winner. Now, not only does Lisha have to try and attack for the race lead in AM, he's also now under attack from Freimut behind him.
He could get a run here, and ironically we're talking about Spa not being a KTM circuit, so it shows you what we know, or what the KTM guys have done very well to look after their tyres. I did think they would have that huge benefit of tyre life. Here's Formanek still looking all over the back of that gold and black Maserati of Pampanini.
Indeed so, as they come through Pif Paf then. Philippe Pret back into the race, as I'd mentioned, but he's a rather distant 8th now. He's something like 40 seconds back from Oliver Freimut, so he needs the AMs to really get themselves together and trip over one another before he can then think about gaining any ground whatsoever. Pret, of course, looked after by Stefan Ortelli, who is still watching on in the pit lane. Stefan might have a view about what happened to that tyre as well, potentially. Here come then the cars for second place, up through Blanchimont. Formanek now makes the attack on the inside, and again, serves intent, but Roberto Pampanini able to move across and defend, and he actually comes out just slightly further ahead as Formanek had to bail out of this. This battle, I think, is going to go on down to the wire, isn't it?
Yeah, Formanek's been there for a few laps now, so he's lost the momentum to get past Pampanini.
mentioned Stefan Ortelli watching Philippe Pret's progress. We can hear from him. Ganel has caught up with Stefan Ortelli in the pit lane, and we can head to her right now.
Stefan Ortelli, one of the sports car and endurance racing legends here at Spa again. You're still so passionate about sports car, about racing cars. What's that passion about?
For me, it's we are in part of the race. It's unfortunately you want always to celebrate it, but today we had the lamp tires. We still try to figure out with Pirelli what was happening. We didn't have any contact with Philippe Pret. We won the race last year, and for me, come back to your question, I'm so happy to help the Pret family, Louise racing the McLaren. This car number 58 for the 24 hours, and Philippe is doing extremely well. He's the reigning champion in AM in GT2, and yeah, trying to transmit my expertise and spend some fantastic time on the race weekend. That's all about. Any
project of sharing the wheel with one of them in the future?
If it is happen, it will be pure fun, just pure fun. Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, go back to 2003, Stefan Ortelli, Marc Lieb, Romain Dumas, the winners outright. It was a wet year, and the Freisinger NGT second-class Porsche was able to come through to take the win. It was a remarkable win. It would be great to see Stefan Ortelli back. Blancpain Endurance Series champion, Le Mans winner as well. Right, meanwhile, as far as the second-placed battle is concerned, outright and in Pro-Am, Formanac has cleared Pampanini. This is how he did it, Joe.
Wow, great move into Pouin, showed the nose, Pampanini very fair, left a gap, Formanac filled it, but not an overtaking spot we see too often into Pouin, so great job by Formanac to get it done, but Pampanini very fair.
Indeed so, thinking about the championship and points. Now, Formanac's got a lot of work to do to catch up to Kajaya in the KTM. But look at the way that he's cleared and pulled away from that Maserati. So certainly Formanac wants the race win here. There'll be more frustration, of course, post-race with that penalty, and there'll be some grumpiness about it. But Stefan Rossina kind of banged to rights. We've got the evidence of it. They know that if you win a race, you're always going to have that extra time to serve in the pit lane anyway. It's one of the ways of making sure that you don't get a runaway champion in this. So here in Am, still with the rubber flailing behind the car, going a bit deep through Bruxelles is Pascal Gibon. And now, again, look, trying to make a move is Petrolicia. Can't do it around the outside at Speaker's Corner, but he might be able to do a Formanac and have a go on the inside into Pouin. He's certainly close enough to have a go, and he's on the lights.
Yeah, Freimuth has dropped back a lot, though, hasn't he? He was only 4/10 behind at the start of this lap, so that black Lamborghini has made a mistake, and we're seeing the attack still going on. But again, unless he can just get a slight run down the inside here, is looking hard because that Mercedes so strong at the end of the straights. He's got to try and open up the corner as the team's stress levels go through the roof. They're looking at the timing screens, knocked to the heavens there for reference. But I think the best chance is still this last corner, and he's just got to send it around the outside. You've got your normal braking point, but when you're going around the outside, you can afford to brake 5 meters later because you're going that much wide around the corner, and that gives you the overspeed to get the overtake done.
The problem is that Petrolicia has tried it so often that Gibon now knows what's coming, because Licia does his go to the outside, then a move to the inside. It never quite pays off, but Gibon knows that this is where he needs to defend, so he's already thinking about his view of the mirror, a view of the KTM and where it is on the track. Licia this time goes to the outside line, but he doesn't really level. He's not going to be able to go around the outside to attack on the second part of the chicane here. Gibon, though, does go deep, but he gets the drive off the corner. So Petrolicia doesn't really benefit on that lap at all.
He's doing everything right, Petrolicia, apart from the braking point. It's just too conservative. He's very fixated on opening up that last corner to get a run, but that isn't playing to the strength of the KTM. And by the time they get to the end of the Kemmel Straight, the gap's so large again, he can't do anything about it into Le Comte.
And also Freimuth has caught back up a little bit. Not too much, but he has closed slightly as there the cars go through Eau Rouge once again. Now, only 10.5 minutes remain. David Kajaya is on target for a win. This double KTM win that you were tipping, Petrolicia needs to extract digit, doesn't he? Because he's still stuck, and if anything, has dropped back a bit. Yeah,
and again, that's that Sector 1 swing yo-yo effect between the two different cars there. The teams offering some support over the radio. Just say, maybe try this. We can see this on the sectors. Remember what we spoke about pre-race. This is what you can do to improve. Maybe even saying we saw Formanac overtake into Pouin T10. Maybe try this. Anything to help these drivers on track is always beneficial.
Rounding Bruxelles then comes Petrolicia on the tail of Pascal Gibon. Gibon has this year had a second place with Christophe Bourret in both Paul Ricard races and in the second Zandvoort race, but not yet a win. This would be, of course, therefore, a great result for them. Petrolicia, when he's been sharing with André Rocoche, was third at Ricard and third at Zandvoort. So he is equally looking for his best result of the season. And as far as the lead gap is concerned, it has halved pretty much in the space of a lap. It's gone from 4.8 to 2 seconds, and all of a sudden Formanek looks like this is on.
Yeah, I'm worried this KTM's got an issue because all three sectors on the last lap were pretty equally poor, and it's lost 3.5 seconds over a lap. So is that car starting to develop an issue which is hurting the pace for Kajaya here? Looks okay dynamically, so is it an engine power issue? But the gap still falling away. Looks, yeah, 7/10 gained in sector 1 for the Lamborghini. What did I say about a double KTM win?
Yeah. So, could be 2 out of 2 instead for Michelin Motorsport, having won yesterday. There is the Lamborghini that the team operates, and it's closing inexorably now onto the back of the KTM of Kajaya. 2 seconds at the start of the lap, and it's 1.3 after the first sector alone. So the margin is being slashed, isn't it, here by Bronek Formanek, the ex-Formula Renault and radical racer, as he goes out of Pouhon. Back onto the power, heading up towards Piff Paff, and it now looks like it is when, not if, he strikes for the lead. With 8.5 minutes to go, he's got time on his side, so it's up to Petrolicia now to uphold KTM honour potentially, and he still can't crack the Mercedes.
No, and it's the same story, isn't it? They get side by side, but the Mercedes then will out-drag and have a couple of lengths as they turn into Rouge. That's the same story there, but yeah, Kajaya's got 0 pace at the moment, and Formanek is looking like he's lining up a move, and where are they going to get it done?
So the cars now making that run up through Blanchimont. The margin at the start of the lap was 38 thousandths, because as they came across the line, Petrolicia had his nose ahead, so he did notionally lead. But as far as the outright battle is concerned, Kajaya, 2 seconds it was, and it's about 2 inches coming out of the chicane now. KTM good there, pulls away slightly, perversely, from the Lamborghini. They break the beam, they go on to the next lap with 7.5 minutes to go, starting lap number 21. Break for La Source, the margin 4 tenths then. So from 4 seconds to 4 tenths in pretty quick order. Wide goes Kajaya, kicks up the stones into the face of Formanek. That's one way of trying to get rid of him.
Yeah, there's a big puff of smoke again, but we just see it so often from the KTM. I don't think that is our issue. And again, dynamically, it looks okay. I can't really see where its inadequacy is at the moment. Maybe it's fixed itself and it's okay, but the gap now, less than half a second. Formanek has got a chance here of getting a big slipstream all the way down the Kemmel Straight.
They come up towards the Les Combes sequence of corners then, and again, Formanek thinks about a move, then thinks better of it. But he would desperately like to do the double this weekend. They won both races at Paul Ricard. They won the first at Zandvoort. They've won the first here. So is it going to be a second double victory of the year? Formanek has certainly got the pace. Now it's up to David Kajaya to defend. Out of Bruxelles they come. 6.5 minutes to go now.
Some information on the Gibon Petrolica battle. Gibon is on a black and white for track limits as well now, so he's only a couple of issues away from getting a 5-second penalty. And again, the team will be telling, well, Gibon's team and Petrolica, as he looks to the outside, finally can he get it done? Gibon rolls off the brake there, but both of these drivers will probably be informed of that track limit issue that the Mercedes is facing.
Yeah, Petrolica now trying to force another mistake out of him, isn't he? Trying to force him to go wide, and then he can, even if he can't overtake on the track, he can be ahead on corrected time if a penalty comes. Gianluca Giorgi's Audi, by the way, out of the race with a technical issue, we understand from the team. The cars in this AM lead contest come out of La Source. Petrolica almost hypnotised now by the back of that Mercedes AMG that he's been staring at for so long. He has got 5 3/4 minutes of the race to go as the cars go through a Rouge, that climb uphill. This is for the race lead. There's another KTM involved in a lead battle. Here it's defending. And interestingly, Kajaya may have lost all of that time, but he's not lost the place. He has been able to hang on to the position. So Formanek is close. Through Blanchimont they come. Wider is the KTM. That's ever so close to the limit. Formanek not near enough to make a dive into the chicane, at least not on this lap, which is lap 21.
Yeah, the pace is picked up A-OK on that KTM, so it'll be interesting to see what happened there. Very few things you can do as a driver to reset stuff on the fly. So maybe it was just the team advising him of a new traction control setting, or it was a simple mistake and he lost his rhythm. But there was 5 seconds lost over the period of 2 laps.
So out of La Source they go. David Kajaya not getting away necessarily, but he is hanging on. 5 minutes and counting. So they flash past the endurance pits. Left, right, flick through a rouge, make the climb up Rally on the other side, and then that long camel straight. You're still climbing. 17% gradient change as they go up the hill, and then you're still climbing as now Formanek does start to make his first push for the race lead to the outside line. David Kajaya tries to fend him off. It's going to be the last of the late breakers. Formanek on the outside has got the job done. Nice pass. Brunet Formanek leads. He goes a little bit wide, 2 wheels up the curb. Kajaya, though, is not able to pounce and strike back. So Lamborghini leads coming into Bruxelles.
Great move, and great to see both cars keeping it clean and staying on the track there through Le Combe. Great job for Formanek. This will also mean Racina has won the most amount of GT2 races in Pro-Am with 11. So that's a cool accolade for Racina to have.
11 for 11. Here he comes downhill. Brunet Formanek at the wheel, though. Stefan Rosina watching from the pit lane as Petrolicia goes really wide, and that has not only compromised the exit to the chicane, it might be another track limit problem as Licia gets the job done. Easy peasy this time. Brakes for the chicane. Maybe went in a little bit deep there as the cars went through. He has gone deep. He's got it all wrong coming out, and that's going to give Gibon the chance to come back at him. So as we cut to the team celebrating, Petrolicia was having a bit of a moment of his own, I think, and he comes across the line. He's lost the class lead. He's on the inside. He brakes as late as he dares into La Source. He's got the line for the corner, and he's got the lead back again. But here comes the Mercedes with all of that grunt. One side, then the other. Petrolicia defending nicely, but here comes Gibon. Breezes back past him.
Oh, frustrating for that KTM. Great driving. Finally gets it done round the outside. It's the closest he's ever been through a Rouge, of course, but I still think the Mercedes is going to pull away, even with the slipstream given to the KTM behind.
So all of the power of the Mercedes carries it ahead and effectively gets it out of what you might call our unofficial DRS zone, because he's so far ahead coming up Camel Straight. There's no chance for Licia to use a toe. Now he's got to spend the rest of the lap getting back onto the tail so he can attack at the chicane. It's so frustrating for him. And just when he thought he got it all nailed, Pascal Gibon just reminds him what horsepower is all about.
Yeah, exactly. There's no replacement for displacement. And that Mercedes of Gibon, I've loved his defence. Very aggressive, but fair. And some of the AM drivers spend years and years learning that art of defence, and sometimes their driver coaches actually just take them to the local kart track and beat them up, as Petrolica looked like he had a slight run on him down the hill to Pouhon.
Did indeed, didn't he? But whether he's brave enough to make a move, the next sector will tell us. There is the leader then. It is Brunet Formanek coming up through Radion. Petrolica is still staring at the back of that Mercedes AMG. Of course, ironically, the type of car that Petrolica has normally been racing in the championship. So now he's thinking, why did I switch? Why did I decide to come and do it this way? There, again, on the lights, trying to rattle Gibon. And he is a touch rattled. It's a different line through Pif-Paf. Petrolica right on his tail. This is where he's got to exploit the benefit of the KTM through the twiddly bits. Looks to the inside, coming into Campus. No way through there. Go right onto the power. Go right into the Cour Paul Frere. There's a gap on the inside. Petrolica sticks his nose in, but that was never going to work.
Gibon was never going to look in his mirror there either, so I think Petrolica knew that was an opportunistic move. It's a shame Oliver Framuth couldn't stay with this, because the battling, they're losing so much time at the moment. Philip Pret, was over 1 minute and 20 behind. That's now 1 minute and 5, so he's gained 15 seconds on this battle in less than 6 laps.
Now let's see whether Licia is able to do his demon out braking manoeuvre again. He's lost a bit too much ground on that lap, so he does brake late, he does close, but they're going to come through now with a mistake made by Gibon. He's slow off the corner. Now Licia gets the drop and clears him and starts to build the gap. So Gibon, in a sense, did on that lap what Petrolica did the lap before. In other words, getting the chicane wrong. But look how much he closes under braking. If he stays on the back all the way around La Source, then he's going to be in with the chance. He was on the lights trying to rattle Petrolica. There's the gap. Now watch that come down as in comes the grunt of the Mercedes. Heading downhill. Petrolica leading in AM. Pascal Gibon closing, closing, closing. Can't get through there, but it's up towards Le Combe where he wants to be close enough to attack. Is he going to be able to narrow the margin sufficiently? Let's see. KTM is ahead. Here comes the Mercedes, booming along behind, closing, closing, closing. But if Petrolica can hang on, I think he's got the job done, because the rest of the lap is his, and Gibon does not get there in time. So finally, it looks as though Petrolica has been able to not only take the AM class lead, but he should be able to secure that now over the next few corners.
Great persistence from Petrolica there, just kept knocking on the door, and finally it was opened by Gibon for him. And I think you're right, I think he's now going to escape down the road in Sector 2.
This is the last lap. This is the leader. This is Bronek Formanek, and he's on lap number 24, and he's looking for 2 out of 2 here this weekend as the Lamborghini Huracan comes up through Radion now, makes that climb along the Camel Straight. Very good effort put in by both Formanek and Rosina to overcome the assorted penalties that have been picked up. And there in second place, David Kajaya, new to the championship this weekend for this season, but another podium beckons for a car that was outside the top 3 yesterday. Formanek there just has to bring it home now. Interesting to see the way that that gap came down so markedly. I think you're right, there might be something amiss with that KTM because the gap looked so good for so long and then all of a sudden kind of disappeared.
Yeah, it's strange, wasn't it? And shame for KTM. They look like they're going to get 1 class win at least, but feel for Daniel Kajai because he was doing a mega job after the pit stops and had the pace. And yeah, I think he must be nursing either an intermittent problem or something that's just losing him a couple of seconds a lap at most and then maybe going away. And there's obviously so many electronics on this car, could be almost an infinite amount of potential issues.
So, Bronek Formanek comes up to Pif-Paf for the last time, and having had 2 wins at Ricard, 1 at Zandvoort, it's going to be 2 at Spa as well. And Stefan Rosina, who we first saw racing KTMs in this championship, is going to score an 11th victory in the Pro-Am division. That is a record, and he's not done yet for the season. They want more wins, they want a championship as well. So heading now into the Cours Paul Frère comes the race-leading car, and now the power is on as the Lamborghini makes the run up towards Blanchimont for the last time. From pole position, Stefan Rosina started. He picked up a penalty for weaving when he should not have done on the formation lap. They had to overcome 5 seconds in the pits. They had to overcome 10 seconds of compensation time for winning yesterday. And Bronek Formanek then had to fight his way into contention. He had to clear the Maserati. He had to clear the KTM. All of that has been done, and a really well-deserved win. Bronek Formanek then, after a really good drive, accelerates out of the chicane. Checkered flag at the ready. Bronek Formanek, Stefan Rosina win race 2 of GT2 European Series at Spa. Second goes to David Kajaya and Matto Homola. So a good result after yesterday when the car ended up in 3rd in the end, and then 3rd place goes the way of Pampanini and Calamia. And there is a car that did not finish yesterday, but he's on target for a win today, and it is Petrolicia and Victor Marash in the KTM. And again, they had to work hard to do that.
Yeah, really hard and well-deserved. Good strategy from the team, pitting when they did to be able to take the fight to those AM cars. And, of course, feel sorry for Philip Pret because he was doing a mega job. And it'd be interesting to see, do you think it was the burnout leaving the box? Most cars do it, and it's not a problem. This Pirelli tyre, normally so reliable, so maybe some debris on track has caused an issue, which has then delaminated that tyre.
So for Petrolicia then, he accelerates now through that long Cours Paul Frère, long looping right, and then you go into the long left of Blanchimont up towards the end of the lap. But he's driven well, bearing in mind that that's not his regular mount in the championship. It's not his regular co-driver either. There's been quite a lot to get used to. And the car yesterday had problems. Only did 5 laps, didn't it? Victor Marash never got a drive in the car yesterday. Here, though, all good. So they've turned around the weekend, and Victor Marash and Petrolicia score honours in AM for the first time this season as the car comes across the line. I wonder whether Gibbon was a bit demotivated having lost that class lead, because look at the gap at the end. That Mercedes just not able to respond. He did such a good job for so long of defending. But in the end, 4.4 seconds the margin, and that sort of opened up within... really, 9.4 seconds as he comes across the line after 2 laps. So that opened up really quickly.
Yeah, is that a track limit penalty? I think has made it 9.4. I think it was.
Yeah.
I think it was 5
yes, you're
seconds.
right. He did get a 5-second penalty from.
I think he was trying to not get a track limit penalty, backed off a bit, and then got a track limit penalty.
So it's an inflated gap, but even so, 4.4 seconds, which it was in natural time, is still a lot over a couple of laps, given how well that car had been going. Anyway, as far as this car is concerned, it's been a great weekend. Another victory then for Bronek Formanek and for Stefan Rosina. And there the RTR Projects team, all smiles after a class win in AM. So as the teams celebrate, let's have a look then at the provisional results of our second race in GT2 European Series of the weekend. Bronek Formanek and Stefan Rossina are victorious ahead of David Kajaya and Matteo Homola. Roberto Pamperini dropped back to third with Mauro Calamia, Alberto De Martin and Neil Montserrat were fourth ahead of the AM-winning Petrolicia, Victor Marash, KTM. Then sixth, Pascal Gimont and Christophe Bourret ahead of Oliver Freimut. Then Philippe Pret after his extra pit stop with that delaminated tyre. And it was a retirement for Gianluca Giorgi and Daniele Canzaniga after also a penalty in the race yesterday. So, the drivers will make their way shortly to the podium. Stefan Rossina, perhaps, now that the car's won, will be less grumpy than he might have been after the earlier penalty. We know he doesn't like being penalised, but there wasn't really a lot he could argue with that because we saw two bits of evidence of weaving after the requisite part of the racetrack on that formation lap. But right now, this is the car, the team, the driver combination to beat, isn't it?
Yeah, they're dominant at times, aren't they? Rode their luck a bit today, I would say, but I'd rather be lucky than good. As you can see, Rossina helping out Formanek. Great helmet livery as well on Formanek. It's like I would have done in year 2 of my art class, I think.
Dream on. So the celebrations will be underway. Stefan Rossina is smiling, which is always a relief, and he will be able to reflect on a really good race in the fullness of time. Their drivers out of the car, Bronek Formanek with the very colourful helmet indeed, and you'll see his trademark long beard, long hair in a moment as Stefan Rossina is presented with the winner's caps. Bronek Formanek takes the hands device off, the helmet off, the headphones out, puts on his team hat and takes on some water. Hard stint that for Formanek because he was busy throughout. I mean, it wasn't that he was able to just coast to a win. He had to work really hard for that, what with overtaking from third place when he came out onto the circuit. Stefan Rossina there. He is going to face the microphone of Guenel Longy, who is with our winners at the end of race 2 of GT2.
Stefan Rossina, win number 5 this season for both of you. Fantastic drive from your teammate, recovering from a 10+5 seconds penalty.
No. Bronek drove a fantastic stint. He was able to overtake the leader, and he drove really well, really well. It's a really good performance, and I'm happy that we won again.
And leaving Spa with a strong lead in the championship.
Yes, that is our plan. We now need to continue. As said, I believe that Bronek drove fantastically. All team did a great job, and I believe that we will continue fighting. It's not that easy as it looks because we had to fight really until the last lap.
Congrats, you guys.
So well done to Bronek Formanek, Stefan Rossina, and in super slow motion, this is how the car looked as it came through the chicane. You've got that big curb on the inside to try to avoid, and you can see Bronek Formanek hustling the car through, hard at work, turning the car through the right and then setting it up for the left-handed element of the chicane, which has that little climb during it, and then you accelerate onto the Formula 1 pit straight. Still, the road has a slight climb there. A little bit of bodywork damage you see on the sill on the right front, but no dramas at all, other than a penalty that they were able to overcome with a great stint by Formanek in the second part of the race. And there, the KTM drivers.
Not so much, but a little.
David Kajaya explaining what happened.
Yeah, that's it. The balance was okay. Balance-wise, everything was okay.
P2, I think that means, doesn't it? It's a shame not first for the Georgian driver as well.
Yeah.
Kajaya, a good character to have.
I was trying to work out, he seemed to be saying that the balance was okay, and the power, he said, was okay, so I'm still mystified as to where the time went. But anyway, time will tell. Maybe we'll hear from them. There is Petrolicia as a class winner. Sharing with Victor Marash. A really hard drive by Petrolicia as well. He doesn't look that happy. There are your second place drivers. They look pretty content. David Kajaya and Matteo Homola. And the RTR Projects team apologising for getting in the way of the cameras. There is Matteo Homola being filmed. And content. There's David Kajaya in the background. How are your lip reading skills?
In Georgian, not great.
Excuses. What we can do, though, is hear, hopefully, from two happy AM winners, Victor Marash and Petrolicia, coming home in their KTM, winning in the end by 9.4 seconds, and Guenel is with them.
Victor Marash and Petra's gonna come in a few seconds. What a drive from your teammate to get this first ever win together.
Yeah, it's the first win. and special for me because I'm first time here, and it was very difficult. Yeah.
Were you nervous while watching the race from the pit wall?
Yeah. I'm very nervous.
Petra, maybe you weren't nervous because you had no time for this. What a fight with Pascal Gibon to get that first win.
Pascal is perfect race driver, and for me is very problem. I am happy first. Okay, perfect race, perfect teammate, perfect.
Enjoy. Thank you.
So a very happy team. Hard race, certainly for Petrolicia. He had a lot of work to do there to try to get himself into the mix, but it all came right. And so now the drivers will make their way to the podium. And we'll get ready for the Pro-Am and Am ceremonies here in the second race of the weekend in GT2 European Series. And the fact that SRO has pledged that commitment to the category for next year hopefully might give one or two fence sitters the reassurance that they need to come and join in for 2026, because the racing we have is always interesting, that is for certain.
Yeah, and there's a driver. The cars are really interesting because they're kind of overpowered under grip, so it means your job's not as easy, if that's the right word to use, as a GT3 or a GT4. So the rewarding nature of these cars should make them a very popular category.
So we will have very shortly the podium, which is the F1 podium in operation. You're looking at the other pit lane, the old control tower there, now used for hospitality purposes. But in days of yore, that's where major races like the 24 Hours of Spa would be orchestrated from. The mountains nearby, which were rather wet and soggy at parts of yesterday, are dry and sunny this morning. So a look at the highlights of race 2 of GT2 European Series, with a good start for Stefan Rossina, putting him in the lead of the race, just being able to fend off Matta Homolo, who ran wide, got two wheels in the gravel and lost position to the Mauro Calamia Maserati coming down the hill. Philippe Pret also lost out a little bit, as up and past him came Daniele Casaniga in the Audi, and that was a car that would soon be in strife with a number of track limit warnings. When the pit window opened, Victor Marash was in early to give way to Petrolicia, and that turned out to be a really shrewd move, because it wasn't long before Petrolicia was fighting for the class lead, helped also by Philippe Pret having a tyre issue here coming along Kemble Straight. Suddenly it delaminated, rubber was spat from the back along with bodywork. He limped to the pit lane. They did get another tyre on, but he'd lost so much time having to limp back that first of all Pascal Gibon and then Petrolicia were able to go past for first and second in Am. Oliver Freimert in the Lamborghini worked his way past as well. Up front, Roberto Pampanini lost out to Bronek Formanek coming down through Pouan. That was for second place outright, and it wasn't long before Formanek was on the back and then alongside of the KTM for the lead, moving himself past David Kajaya, heading into Les Cons. Petrolicia tried and tried and tried to get past Pascal Gibon, who eventually made the error that he had been waiting for, wide at the chicane, and Petrolicia and Victor Marash came through to score a first win in Am, while Stefan Rossina took an 11th in Pro-Am in GT2 European Series with the help of Bronek Formanek.